Ladies and gents, you are going to want the lotion for this one, because if we take a look at something absolutely huge that's been going on with the dollar, your mind is going to be blown. I want to show this to you super quickly and then discuss with you the implications, because this is absolutely huge, potentially indicating that Bitcoin could be ready for a huge breakout, ending the bear market, rallying up towards 60k, 130k, literally anything that you can rub yourself off to, and you're going to see exactly why in a little while. And to be honest, it actually looks pretty plausible. I'm only trying to bring you things that look plausible on this YouTube channel, and obviously our job as technical analysts, whether you like it or not, is to discuss and debate all of the possibilities and be as objective as possible. And then, of course, when we're ready to commit to an idea and put money to something, then of course we need to be a little bit more subjective. But here's the thing: something huge that I want to show you has happened on the daily time frame for the US dollar index, which is, bam, right here, a death cross right here. Take a look at this. So this happened a little while ago, just some days back, earlier this year. We saw a death cross where our 50-day moving average crossed below our 200-day moving average, which is a huge display in momentum for the US dollar. And this alone is a pretty bad sign for the US dollar, but it's actually made a lot worse because of what I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute. But the key thing that I want to highlight to you guys right now with regards to this death cross is that this is going to be a display of where momentum is on the chart. And those of you that know a little bit about how the dollar has generally affected other markets like the S&P 500, other stocks, and of course by extension Bitcoin and crypto, is that generally what we've seen is that while the dollar is gaining strength on this US dollar currency index, when it's gaining strength, we generally tend to see our markets, Bitcoin, the S&P 500, and so on, we generally tend to see our speculative markets go down. But when the dollar is dropping, we generally tend to see the opposite. We generally tend to see that the S&P 500 and so on are rising. Here's a great example of this right here, where if we take a look at when the dollar topped out on a weekly time frame right here, this is the same chart that I was just showing you right here. This line is right here. If we take a look at this chart right here, we can see that the dollar topped out right here, and the S&P 500 managed to rally pretty nicely at that very same point. These are not coincidences. I'm going to be breaking this down for you and covering the implications that this has on Bitcoin. So if you're excited for this, do me a favor and throw a like and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And what I also want to do very quickly before we continue is highlight again for you this huge opportunity on Bybit to take advantage of this $5,000 deposit bonus, meaning that if you want to trade the markets based off whatever you've been seeing in the game, you can actually trade it with free cash that you're going to get when you check out my link in the description down below to sign up to Bybit. Prime XBT stacks another $7,000 on top of that. And the cool thing about Prime XBT is you can trade the S&P 500 and even the dollar against currencies around the world as well, which is very cool. Some other commodities in there as well. Very cool, only requiring a Bitcoin deposit, so you don't have to link your bank account and credit card and stuff like that, which I think is very cool. Love Prime XBT for that. They're offering you 7k. Bybit's offering you 5k. That's 12k altogether. Bybit apparently is still offering 30, but I can't find where that offer is. But here's the deal. Let's bring it back to this dollar chart right here. What I think is really cool about this dollar chart right now is that we're in a situation where the dollar has managed to show that momentum has reversed. We were previously trending up very high. We've managed to lose a lot of that trend. We've pulled back quite massively, I would say. I mean, 10% across 105 days is significant, ladies and gents, especially when you zoom out and take a look at just how deep this has cut. I mean, this is no small correction at this point. And what I think is especially concerning is that, generally these are going to be quite bad signs. If we're going to look at how this has affected the dollar in the past, because it's a little bit different for the dollar. The thing about the dollar is it's a very long-term chart, right? So looking at this on the daily time frame, if we did this for Bitcoin, that would be a big deal. Doing this for the dollar, less of a deal. Less of a big deal, I should say, because it's just a really large time frame market. It's not really even a market, really, is it? It's just a very large time frame chart. We've literally got access to the monthly chart right here, which actually crossed bullish back in 2017. And so it doesn't give us a complete view, but what I think is absolutely very interesting is that it lines up with the support area that we're in right now. See, we got this death cross while the dollar is in a critical support area, and if we zoom out a little bit and take a look at what the support area has meant for the dollar, we've seen that right here on a monthly time frame, this not only on the weekly time frame but also on a monthly time frame, this has been a very, very important level for the dollar. Let me show it to you on this chart right here. So just ignore my other lines here. In fact, I think it's time to remove them because we're so far away from these levels on this chart that it almost doesn't matter. And we're also going to remove the rest of these indicators. And what you can see is that historically, this has been a very important level for the dollar. We've managed to find resistance here multiple times throughout the last decade. And if we go even further back into the 90s and even into the 80s on this weekly time frame, we've got some quite real significance on this chart around this horizontal level. And in fact, generally, when we're able to break above this level, we skyrocket. But generally, when we break below this level, we drop really, really hard. And again, I just want to show you that this applies just as much on the monthly time frame. Look, even going back as far as the 70s, look at this. We get our bounces off this level and it just goes absolutely fucking haywire. I mean, just absolutely insane. But here's the thing, is we're potentially going to lose it. Now, we're at the support level, right? So generally at a support level, you would expect a bounce. And in fact, it could do what you just saw, which is that we get a really big bounce here and things go absolutely crazy. And I know that's what a lot of people were expecting before. Not so much anymore, and especially with interest rates still having that threat of rising. I mean, obviously we're expecting them to tone down a little bit now, but overall still having that threat of rising. People's opinions have changed a little bit, but bottom line, ladies and gents, I think we are seeing a situation right now on this chart where, we've got potentially this support area being at risk. And the thing is if it does fall, what we can see from some of our previous drops right here on this chart is that we've seen quite heinous drops down. For the dollar, a drop down by 20% is huge, and I know it took a really long time for that to happen, basically like a year and a half or something like that. Maybe not so much like a year and a half, but still a long time indeed. It did take a while, but this is still a very, very big drop. On this occasion right here, just showing you the last few times the dollar has dropped down on a monthly scale, we managed to fall down by 17%. Again, absolutely huge. We've already seen a 10% drop right here and minus 33% most recently. Now, again, I'm going to relate this back to Bitcoin in just a minute, but this is all very, very important background information, because if what we're seeing typically is that when we lose this level, we drop down much further, and if what we're seeing typically is that when the dollar drops down, indices like the S&P 500 rise up, we've potentially got the same thing on the horizon again, where we could be ready to see some really big gains for indices like the S&P 500. And that's a really important point, because typically we do tend to see, especially recently, ladies and gents, we do tend to see that Bitcoin and the S&P 500 move in the same way. It's been a little bit less over the last 6 months, I would say, compared to how it used to be. But guys, it used to be eerily close, 1-to-1 in terms of how similar it was that the S&P 500 and Bitcoin move in similar ways. And that's not for any mysterious reason. That's basically just because the S&P 500 is a nice, big, safe, comparatively index to put your money into, and so when you're making money on, speculative in speculative environments like this, generally money is also going to flow into even more speculative environments. All right, so that's going to be, the S&P 500 being relatively safe, Bitcoin being comparatively relatively dangerous, right? And so that's why we tend to see that when the S&P 500 rises up, so does Bitcoin, which we've seen a little bit of, but obviously we've been so shot in the crypto space lately because of the FTX drama. But obviously that's not defining the space, right? That doesn't completely mean that nothing is possible in the space anymore. And I think that's a very important note to be keeping track of. So if we move forward with this and take a look at the kind of drops that we've seen, that potentially does indicate some really nice upside to come for the S&P 500. And I want to show you a different view of this, because what we've got right here on this chart, guys, is that with this drop down for the dollar index stretching between March 2020 and February 2021, we saw a big drop for the S&P 500, and the exact same time frame on for the dollar index, and for the exact same time frame on the S&P 500, we saw a very big rally up. And that, I think, is very telling of what we could be looking at. Now, obviously, the dollar did start to kind of just fluctuate and even rise up a little bit in the time that the S&P 500 continued to rise, and the S&P 500 did even reverse while the dollar, but before the dollar, let me collect my thoughts. The S&P 500 did reverse did continue rising up while the dollar was rising up. So sometimes we lose those inverse correlations. Sometimes we lose those negative correlations. But what we generally tend to see, which these green lines punctuate very well, is that when we get these big reversals like we got over here, that's when we tend to see opportunities coming up in our speculative markets. And again, I just want to bring you back to that death cross that we had on the daily time frame right here. The reason that this is all so important, in my opinion, is that when we start to get multiple bearish signs coming in at the same time, that's where you could be looking at a more likely breakout, in this case to the downside, right? So number one is that we've got a death cross right here. Number two is that we're trading at our support level, and it's been quite a drop down. I mean, obviously the drop has eased off a little bit, so it certainly looks like we could be ready to recover, but nonetheless we have seen quite a steep drop down where this support level is at threat of failing. And we've also got that threat of rising interest rates on the long term still kind of looming over our heads, right? And so and there's obviously a lot more. There's quite a good number of other arguments you could make for why the dollar index could continue to drop. And all of this, to relate it back to Bitcoin, the reason that this is such a big deal is that if we do start to see now the S&P 500 really rise up because the dollar is losing key levels, then I think what we could be looking at is a situation where Bitcoin is able to pump out of this falling wedge. And if you've been subscribed to this YouTube channel for a while, you're going to know very well that we're in a situation right here where we've actually been trending down within quite a long-term bullish pattern, which would be this falling wedge. And we've confirmed our support levels really, really well. We've confirmed our support levels down here back in 2021, down at like $17,000 over here, down at like $15,000 over here. And so we've seen really nice support bounces off these levels, and we haven't quite managed to test our resistance levels as much, but I certainly think that if we're able to get that breakout, that push to the upside, we could be looking at quite a substantial, quick, explosive rally to the upside. And of course, if the S&P 500 is what kind of leads the way there, and if the S&P 500 needs the dollar to drop, well, guess what, guys? We might just be on the cusp of having that setup materializing in the markets. Is that actually going to happen? I don't know, all right? I'm not a financial advisor. Don't be an idiot. You already know the deal. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that's certainly what looks like a possibility in this market right now, and it's my job to be very much aware of them in situations like this. Now, this is obviously very long-term analysis, doesn't necessarily relate to where we are in the markets right now, but I think it's still worth keeping in mind as a thought experiment at the very, very least, because this is a super, super interesting chart setup. Before I head off on this video, I do also want to give you a little bit of short-term analysis here because I haven't managed to do that today. Bitcoin managed to pull back a little bit. We didn't quite fall as low as our rising channel has a support level, which is not necessarily a bad thing, not a hugely good thing either, but I do like the fact that we got a pullback, so I think that is a good sign. It would have been nice if we came down to the support level. Like I said in the last video, I really don't want the support level to break, so I'm glad that we didn't do that. To be honest, it's fine. We did get a pullback, and we are now just kind of rising back up. It really looks like the market wants to break out, and to be honest, it just looks like something is holding the market back. I've said that if we're able to cross this dotted line, which is basically a 1% breakout above our resistance line, if we're able to cross this green dotted line right here, that's it. I think this thing could just absolutely send and go crazy, just like rally up towards $18.5, $19,000. I think that's very much on the cards as a possibility. And if we do take a look at that daily Ichimoku cloud, look at that window of opportunity keeps opening up. This Ichimoku cloud really narrows up over here up until basically the middle of the month. And I think that does spell quite a nice opportunity for Bitcoin to not really encounter too much resistance. I am a little bit concerned by the fact that now on this daily time frame we are in a situation where we've just pretty much non-stop rallied up for 10-11 days. Obviously this count tool doesn't include the first candle, so it's basically been 11 days that we've been rallying up with, we've had 2 orange candles here, 2 red candles, but really nothing crazy. So yeah, it does look like, from a time-based perspective, we are probably due for a little bit of a correction, but I do think that overall we're still in a good setup overall. I do like seeing that we're getting some pullbacks here on our short-term chart these are the right things to do. You know, you don't want to see a straight line up. Getting pullbacks like this are very, very good signs indeed. And with this potential opportunity on the dollar index as well, if we do start to see the support level fail, I think things could be very, very interesting. Now, the last thing that I do want to show you on this YouTube video are just the limitations. You know, we form death crosses and golden crosses all the time on the dollar index. We've had an instance of it like right here, for example. And the market did end up dropping down. The index did end up dropping down. We had another one right here where it ended up working out very, very well. But if we look at some previous instances, and by the way, this is great because it shows us that more recently it's been pretty reliable. But if we look at previous instances, we're just having crosses and crosses and crosses and crosses constantly on this chart, where our moving averages are going above and below each other. You know, and that's something to keep in mind. Now, obviously, if you know how to use these moving averages, you would have known not to pay attention to them during this time period, because the dollar index wasn't actually moving that much, like relative to the kind of big price moves, the big moves it has overall on this chart. It wasn't really going too crazy, right? I mean, you look at the kind of big swings that the dollar has experienced before, and this comparatively just isn't much at all. So you would have known not to use the moving average back here. But nonetheless, there are limitations to this, where we have seen death crosses in the past that just haven't really materialized and turned into anything in particular. And in fact, I'd even put this one down as one of those, because the death cross would have come in around here at 94 points. And yes, it did drop, but only by another 2-3 points. And then we ended up going quite high, right? So it was only the next one over here where we got this death cross at around 97, where, yeah, then the dollar did drop down quite substantially down to about 89. So this is quite a big drop. This would have been, let's actually calculate this one from, yeah, it's an 8% drop. I mean, again, it's nothing crazy, but it's still, I mean, you know, for the dollar index, this is still a huge move, and it's definitely something that could paint some really nice opportunities for indices like the S&P 500. So that is what I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. You know, we look at this death cross right here coming in at around 96, and we do see a further kind of 7-8% drop right there. So again, these aren't absolutely crazy, but what they would potentially mean for our speculative markets are very, very exciting. So if we do start to see something like this break apart for the dollar now, I do think that could make some really nice clear skies for indices like the S&P 500, and of course by extension, you know, could result in Bitcoin pumping up very nicely as well. So this is a huge opportunity. This is really the key chart. This is the golden nugget, if there is one to take away from this YouTube video, and that's what I would want you guys to focus your attention on. So go ahead and check out the links to Bybit and Prime XBT with the links in the description down below if you want to take advantage of these huge $5,000 deposit bonuses. If that does sound interesting to you, Bybit, I mean, you guys know, has been my preferred exchange of choice for years, and Prime XBT also offering you 7K, but the ability to trade these traditional finance markets as well, which I think are very, very cool opportunities indeed. If you do want to join my VIP group, if you want to see what kind of trades I'm making, you know, get really behind the scenes access into absolutely every bit of analysis and decision making that I have, then check out these steps on screen. Join my 4Flies Gold Telegram channel by finding this link in the description, and then click on my name and click on send message. Super straightforward. Ask me how to join and I'll get you inside. This actually puts you in a direct chat with me as well, so if you've got any questions, anything you want to talk about, I'm there as well, and if I don't reply to you, one of my team members will, so you don't even have to worry about it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video anyway though. I hope you I'm sorry, I'm all over the place today, guys. I'm in between like 3 different things. If you have, you know what to do. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, and all that good stuff. I've got a really cool video, by the way, coming out for you guys. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. It depends. When the market slows down a little bit, I'll make that. I've already made the video. I'll publish it, and it is about you know, really how to absolutely take advantage of the markets in 2023. So that video will come out very soon. Double check that you're subscribed so you don't miss it. That's like a 50-minute video, and it's one of those videos that I make every now and then that is, I mean, they're all fucking amazing, but it's one of those videos that are just so far out there in terms of how good they are that they just shouldn't be free. And you've got another one coming your way. So double check that you're subscribed so you don't miss it. And yeah, I'm out. Cheers. Bye.